right? I got the response, and I quote, "I will be naked on my couch by 5:30. So if you are in at 5:30, you will find me naked on my couch." Needless to say, we did not go to that apartment because I did not want to risk it. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to
Between
Two
Realtors.
I'm Savannah.
I'm Zach.
We're the two realtors. This is between us.
Space. The blank void.
We have a fun one for you today. This is a pretty much exclusively fun storytelling, weird podcast today.
There'll be a little bit of information in there, a little bit of education.
I hope our editing people can do like a rainbow where it's going to be called the Weird Shit Podcast.
I literally wrote crazy ass shit on the board.
You did. He did, because we're going to talk to you about some weird stuff we see on our job that...
Weird.
Yeah.
We're gonna get weird today.
Get weird.
Sorry. So what are we talking about?
Showings. Talking about what we see on showings, who we encounter on showings, things like that we do while we're we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, but the main thing being when we schedule showings with our wonderful clients and some interesting stories we've had doing that. Well, let's start with just some basics, right? When we do showings, just so you get an idea. Like, we don't just walk into these apartments randomly, right? We have to schedule. Well, I guess I do too, but without
maybe that
clients.
Explains a bunch of the crazy ass shit that we're going to talk about.
So showings, the basics. We have to give, when we're scheduling showings, right? And maybe you've experienced this too when someone's come and shown your apartment. You have to give notice, right? We can't just walk into your home when you're residing there. We could, but we can lose our license and get into a lot of trouble. And also, I don't want to do that to you. I don't want to know what you're doing if you're not expecting me.
So scheduling and that. So, all right. This happens every day for us, I feel like. So you get a call every day, you're like, I would like to see something Broadway, Savannah. And I would like to see it tomorrow at noon.
And it's also 9 p.m. right now.
Yeah.
Savannah's pissed.
Let's see what's going to happen here. Okay, so the apartment or the condo or home, whatever it is on Broadway, is either occupied or it's vacant.
Mm-hmm.
If it is vacant, Savannah, if it works for your schedule, why not?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get this done. If it is occupied, most likely not going to happen, people.
Yeah, because that tenant's going to be like, yo, it's 9 o'clock. You're giving me
why are you texting me right now?
You are giving me 15 hours notice. That's not cool.
Yeah. So just realize, before we get into the other crazy ass shit, I guess, I'm going to keep on saying that.
Sorry, Mom. I said shit.
But, general rule of Illinois, Chicago, 48 hours notice basically for tenants. So if you want to go view something that's occupied, you have to give 48 hours notice to the current tenant. The current tenant at that time can either inform you that they're not willing to have their apartment or condo shown, or they can simply say nothing, or they can accept. Yeah, they can give you a great thumbs up.
See you then.
Whatever they want to say, but then you should be okay to show in 48 hours.
Yes. There
are some circumstances in which they don't say anything, and then later on you get to the apartment and you're like, "Hi, Bob, I'm supposed to show your apartment today." And the dude doesn't want you to show the apartment or let you in. And that gets a little bit awkward, but usually I make a nice little funny joke for my client, and then we just kind of leave.
Yeah, exactly. Well, or you have, let's dive into our crazy shit, because I think there's a lot of
Okay.
Right. So I had one, right? It was an occupied unit. I said, hey, we'll be there between 5 and 5:30, because you never know. People aren't on time. You want to give them a nice range, right? I got the response, and I quote, "I will be naked on my couch by 5:30. So if you are in at 5:30, you will find me naked on my couch." Needless to say, we did not go to that apartment because I did not want to risk it. So I appreciated his honesty. However, I couldn't show him that. I just wasn't comfortable showing my client that apartment because it wasn't a risk I was willing to take. I'll never forget that text.
I might have taken the risk.
No.
One of those.
I wanted to land that deal, and I did not want a naked man to ruin my showing.
I would have made fun of the whole situation and still would have worked out. But I digress. So going back to the point, like giving notice, you can give notice. We can sometimes get you into occupied apartments earlier than 48 hours. It's not like, but a general rule, but we do need like approval from the current tenant. So there are times in which like we've already worked with a tenant before, or we've already talked to them before or something like that. And we can actually, they're very, very nice people. And because they're super nice and super understanding of the whole situation of themselves moving out and no longer being a tenant or living there in the future, that they're willing to let other people come and see the apartment.
For sure.
So we can get you in under 48 hours if it's occupied, but generally, general rules speaking, right?
42 days, which is fair. And I totally get it. We want to make sure you have notice. So if you have an animal or you like have plans at night, you can tell us. So
maybe you work from home. That happens a lot nowadays.
It does a
lot.
You
do not want me being like, what great cabinets and a stainless steel refrigerator in the background of your work from home Zoom call.
Zoom. I'm so tired of Zoom. Okay, anyway. Do you have a good story you want to tell? Because I've got about 15 and we only have a little bit of time here. While Zach's thinking on, I'll tell you.
I've been
go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So I have another one. I have another good one. So I went to a vacant unit, right? And for the most part, I don't usually get worried, and like it's during the day, but like I have stuff on me, I have mace on me too. And it was a client I was showing stuff to, and we got into it was a vacant apartment. So I walked in, I always walk in first, obviously, to make sure everything's good before my client comes in. And I walked in, it was vacant, nothing in there, and I get inside and I go over to the kitchen, I hear the door slam behind me and lock. And I immediately was like, what is going on? I had my mace in my purse or my pocket. I grabbed it and he was like, yeah, just checking to make sure the lock's working. And I was like, that was the weirdest way to do that. It scared the bejeebus out of me.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was another fun one.
All right. So I have walked into an apartment that was supposed to be vacant. Mm-hmm. And there was definitely a very, very large dog on the other side of the door.
And did you go in? Did you go in?
No, I did not. Like literally, like, you know, it's like one of those things where like you're opening the door, you got like the key and stuff like that, and you like start to like nudge it open as you're like talking to your client who's like behind you, and then the next thing you know, you're like dog nose, and you're like not effing around with that.
I wouldn't either.
But
I had one too where it was vacant, and it was a son and his father came with. His father was a little bit older, came with, and we got into probably like our 8th one, and his father needed to use the restroom, and they were speaking a different language, and his son told me, hey, he needs to use the bathroom. Is it okay? It was a vacant unit, and I was like, yeah, it's fine. Like, no one's living here. Let him use the bathroom. He went to the bathroom with the door wide open. I'm standing in this living room and the bathroom opens up to the living room, just starts going to the bathroom and peeing. And I'm standing in the living room with his son. His son is not even fazed by it. He's talking to me, like has arms on his side. He's like asking about like fees and everything to apply to this apartment. And I'm just like the dad is behind him peeing with the door open, and I literally went, I have to turn around, because I was like, I don't know, I felt so, why do I get in these uncomfortable situations? I don't
got that kind of a face that's please bring on awkwardness.
Yes, you can pee with the door wide open. That's the face that I have.
I don't know what's going on. And
I literally just met you an hour ago. That one was a big one too.
If you need a shadow for these showings in the future, I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
tell me about a gross apartment.
So I feel like I don't get as many of like the crazy showings from like the weird standpoint of like what actually happens with like my client on the showing. I feel like I get a lot more of like the weird stuff that happens with like the current tenant just being like either like a general hoarder or like I walk in and like the apartment has like looks like it's like a general construction site, but in like the listing description, it says it's like brand newly renovated. And like I walk in and it's just like, there's no drywall. It's like the slats from like the 1950s when the house was like originally built kind of thing. There's like no like toilet, or there's like a random toilet that's like sitting in the middle of the living room. And you're like, this is where you're going to go to the bathroom. This is where you're going to shower. No, that's like what happens to me. Like I walked in, I remember like one of my first showings ever, legitimately, I walked into the studio and like the door was like honestly hard to like get open to begin with. The tenant never like responded for like notice or anything, but then I like get in and it didn't smell, but like when you walked in, just like it looked like 15,000 suitcases had like blown up. And like you were just walking on like clothes throughout this entire like studio.
I couldn't do it.
Like clothes that have literally just been worn like once or twice, like whatever, and just like.
Nope. I would have been like, good luck. I'm going to stand out here while you walk because I'm not walking.
But it was like the only apartment that's like available in the building. So you're just like sitting there, you're like, do you want this one? And I'm like brand new at like the time, right? So I'm just like.
It's fine. You can make it work. You can make it work.
I'm like, it'll be professionally clean.
It will be, but it's going to probably take them a week.
Yeah, like, don't worry, your move-in date's not for like 3 weeks. It'll be okay.
It'll be fine. It'll be gone. I had a hoarder once, and I walked in. It was at the end of the hallway, and the smell for me, though, like that's like, I got the door unlocked. It was occupied, and the man was home, and he was in a robe, nonetheless, just a robe. Again, weird people
My favorite, yeah, okay.
Okay, open the door. Like, I'm kidding you not, an inch. This smell hit me so bad. I literally stopped, and I told my client, I was like, I'm just gonna let you know, like, if you want to come in and see this, we can, but I'm about to throw up because the smell was so bad, and there was so much stuff in that apartment. And he was very accommodating, and he was in his robe, and he was like inching his way around everything, but I don't ever want to smell that smell again. It was awful.
I remember, this will be like, I think like my final one, but like, I remember it was like a year and a half ago. I gave notice to this tenant. Tenant told me it was okay to come in and everything like that. Like, they were all good. And then they like forgot about the showing completely, went about their day. Get to the apartment, I knock on the door like I normally do for occupied ones, knock again, like as I'm like turning the knob and stuff. So I walk in, I'm like, hello. Like, it's like I'm like yelling for like Hansel and Gretel kind of thing. Anyone here?
Breadcrumbs.
And I like get in and like I don't hear anything at first, but then like this like a long hallway apartment, like 2-bedroom kind of thing. I get like halfway down the hallway in front of like my clients and I hear like the shower running.
Oh, the worst.
And I'm like, what the fuck? In my head.
Our first F-bomb, everybody.
Sorry. Earmuffs for all the people out there with baby ears. But so I'm literally like sitting there and I'm like, do I finish this showing? Be like, we can't go in the bathroom, people. But here's the living room, here's the kitchen, here are the 2 bedrooms.
Let's move, folks. Move quickly.
Or am I just like, let's respect and not cause anything to be super awkward and let's just get the bleep out. I chose to get us the bleep out, but like, if you could only imagine, I got like a text like 30 minutes later from the person being like, that they were basically like paralyzed.
Oh,
because because they like heard that like we came in. She's like, I'm so sorry, like we forgot kind of thing. And I was like,
they were nice about it.
I'm like, well,
it's too late now.
Yeah. But awkward moments, We
have way more.
Yeah.
We're going to have to stop. We'll definitely talk about more later down the road. But those are just some good ones when it comes to showing, scheduling, dealing with tenants, occupied units.
2 more quick things though, like to round us out though, like keys locks, like kind of thing. Just because the keys don't lock or the keys don't work on a showing for the lock or whatever, like don't think that your agent is incompetent. Like,
oh no.
Keys are like the most like sticky situation in the entire business of the world.
Do you know how many times I have gotten in through the back door? I've scaled. I have done whatever I can do to get in there.
There's going to be like a lot of weird things that you'll see your agent eventually do to get into an apartment or a condo or a home.
If they're good at their job.
If they're good at their job, it's just keys are keys and...
They're the worst part of our job. Keys probably one of the worst
Keys and locks. Second thing I'll just say is kind of like around like the timing for showings. I know like I get like a lot of clients that that think like showings are going to take like hours and hours and stuff like that.
The maximum amount of time you should be looking at a rental is 10 minutes. Unless it's a massive apartment and it's going to require you walking like, 3,000 square feet, which is very rare in the city. 10 minutes. You're renting it. We're talking about home sales, is a whole different thing. But like a rental, maybe 15 max. 15 max if you're trying to look at other things. There is no need for you to continue looking at every inch of this place. Again, you're renting it. It's fine. Right? Am I wrong?
I just think like in general, the amount of time to the length of time that you're planning on living there is kind of like,
Exactly.
there's some sort of algorithm that someone, I'm sure in the world, someone on the internet, help me out here, like come up with it. But like, it's generally like 10 to 15 minutes for like 1 year lease. If you're like buying a home, realistically, like 30 minutes, maybe a little bit longer because you're probably going to be there for the next 10 years.
And you're going to get back into it and be able to
all
do
this
more.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, like timing wise, like if we were to go out on like a multiple apartment showing for rent, like we could literally hit 4 to 5 apartments in an area within an hour.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to do like a home sale showing for you, any realtor should be able to get you through at least 2 to 3 condos within
an hour
15, somewhere in there. It really depends on like if you're feeling something like on like a home sale one.
And it depends on what you're looking at too, right?
It's
like
more than
basic,
realistic for someone to stay in a home sale that they like and they want to look at that home a little bit more.
Yeah, but rentals, 10 to 15 minutes. Yeah. We don't need to be looking at this deeply because you're not doing anything to it. You don't own it. You're only going to be there short term, 10 to 15 minutes. Showings, we're going to talk about some more weird shit later, but that was just the dusting on the top. We'll get into it more later. Thanks for joining us.
This is Between
2
Realtors.
Like, subscribe, everything, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn.
I wish I had like a stream bar running.
We need to have one at the bottom that just goes through all of them really quickly / slowly. But yeah, like us, we like you. Goodbye.